Welcome to my channel. I'm glad you're here because today we're going to talk about something truly fascinating. Have you ever met a woman who walks into a room and instantly changes its energy? Not because she's the youngest or the most glamorous, but because there's something different about her. Something magnetic. She doesn't try to impress anyone. She doesn't chase attention. Yet somehow attention finds her. That's the power of presence. That's the power of wisdom. And it comes from habits. Simple, intentional habits that shape not just how the world sees her, but how she sees herself. You see, being irresistible isn't about beauty, age, or charm. It's about living with authenticity. It's about confidence without arrogance and grace without apology. So today, we're going to explore 15 habits that make an older woman truly irresistible. Not in a superficial way, but in the way that captures hearts, earns respect, and inspires everyone around her. Because real irresistibility has nothing to do with appearance, and everything to do with character. She leads with grace, not ego. That's what makes her unforgettable. True leadership, the kind that inspires others and earns deep respect, doesn't come from dominance or control. It comes from presence, from calm, from the quiet confidence of someone who knows who she is. When an older woman walks into a room and leads with grace, people don't feel intimidated by her. They feel safe around her. They sense that she doesn't need to prove anything. Her power is not in the volume of her voice, but in the steadiness of her heart. Grace is strength under control. It's the ability to handle chaos without becoming chaotic. When others are reactive, she remains grounded. When others rush to speak, she pauses to think. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because she's learned, often through years of trial and error, that reacting quickly rarely solves anything. Real strength is quiet. Real power doesn't shout. It whispers through actions that come from clarity, compassion, and purpose. An older woman who leads with grace doesn't compete with others, she connects with them. She knows that comparison is the thief of joy. She's seen enough in life to understand that everyone has their own story, their own battles, and their own pace. So, instead of judging, she listens. Instead of tearing others down to lift herself up, she lifts others so that everyone can rise together. And this is what makes her truly irresistible, because grace creates trust. People are drawn to those who make them feel seen, valued, and safe. Ego seeks validation. Grace seeks meaning. Ego says, "Look at me." Grace says, "How can I help?" The older woman who leads with grace doesn't measure her success by how many people follow her, but by how many lives she improves. She knows that legacy isn't built by being the loudest voice in the room. It's built by being the most genuine presence in someone's life. When she speaks, people listen not because they have to, but because they want to. Her words carry weight because they come from experience, empathy, and integrity. She's not afraid to be wrong. That's another mark of grace. Ego defends itself at all costs. Grace admits mistakes, learns from them, and moves forward with humility. This openness to growth makes her magnetic. People trust her because she's real. She doesn't pretend to have all the answers, and that authenticity draws people closer. It's refreshing in a world obsessed with appearances. She leads not through perfection but through vulnerability, showing that strength and softness can coexist. Over the years, she's learned that you can't control everything, or everyone. Life has taught her to let go of the need to be right, to win, to prove. And in that letting go, she's discovered a deeper kind of influence. The kind that doesn't force change, but inspires it. Grace allows her to lead without pushing, to guide without dominating. When she offers advice, it feels like a gift, not a command. When she corrects, it comes with kindness, not condescension. People don't resist her leadership because they know her intention is to help, not to control. Her grace shows up in small moments, the way she handles disrespect without losing composure, the way she forgives without forgetting the lesson, the way she can disagree without being disagreeable. It's in the way she listens to someone she doesn't agree with and still makes them feel heard. This emotional intelligence is what sets her apart. She understands that leadership isn't about having power over others, but power with others. She doesn't just lead teams or families, she leads hearts. Even in her silence, there's leadership. Grace doesn't always speak, sometimes it simply is. When others gossip, she stays quiet. When others rush to judgment, she waits. She chooses her battles carefully because she understands that not every opinion deserves a reaction. Her calm presence diffuses tension. Her poise gives others permission to breathe, to reflect, to think more clearly. That's how she influences. By example, not by authority. Leading with grace also means she values relationships over being right. She's learned that winning an argument but losing a person is never true victory. Grace allows her to put empathy before ego. When someone hurts her, she doesn't retaliate. She responds with dignity. It's not because she's weak, but because she refuses to let someone else's behavior dictate her character. That's the kind of discipline that only comes with age, experience, and self-awareness. Her grace is rooted in gratitude. She remembers where she's been, what she's overcome, and who helped her along the way. Gratitude keeps her humble, and humility keeps her grounded. That's why people find her so compelling, because her success hasn't hardened her. It's softened her. She leads with a heart that's open, not guarded. She celebrates others' victories as if they were her own, because she understands that abundance is not limited. When she shines, others shine with her. The irresistible part of her presence is not just how she behaves when things go right. It's how she carries herself when things go wrong. Grace shows its true face in adversity. When faced with criticism, she listens instead of lashing out. When plans fail, she adjusts without panic. When life disappoints her, she doesn't let bitterness take root. She's learned that every setback is a setup for growth. Her resilience is quiet but powerful, and it gives others hope. People follow her not because she demands it, but because her grace earns it. They trust her because she never makes them feel small. She has a way of seeing potential where others see flaws. And that's what grace really is. The ability to see beyond the surface, to recognize the humanity in everyone, including herself. Her leadership is not a role she plays, it's who she is. Every gesture, every decision, every word reflects a lifetime of learning how to turn pain into purpose, mistakes into lessons, and experiences into wisdom. That's why when she leads, people feel inspired, not managed. They feel cared for, not controlled. Grace doesn't need to announce itself, it's felt. It's the quiet confidence that whispers, "I've been through enough to know what truly matters." And that knowing radiates from her. It's the reason people lean in when she speaks, the reason they remember how she made them feel long after she's gone. She listens more than she speaks. That's one of the most powerful and rare habits in today's world. In a time when everyone is eager to be heard, to be seen, to express their opinions louder and faster than others, she chooses to slow down. She chooses silence, not because she has nothing to say, but because she understands the value of truly hearing. Listening, for her, is not a passive act. It's an intentional one. It's a sign of respect, curiosity, and empathy. When she listens, she doesn't just hear words, she pays attention to tone, to pauses, to what's not being said. An older woman who listens more than she speaks carries a kind of wisdom that only comes from experience. She knows that understanding people is more important than trying to impress them. She's learned, through time and through mistakes, that conversations are not competitions, they are connections. When she engages with someone, she listens to understand, not to reply. She knows that every person has a story, and if you're patient enough to listen, you'll always learn something new. About them, about life, or even about yourself. There's something magnetic about being in her presence. People feel comfortable opening up to her because they sense that she's not waiting for her turn to talk. She's not listening to correct or to outshine, she's listening because she genuinely cares. In a world where attention has become a rare commodity, her full presence feels like a gift. She doesn't interrupt, she doesn't fill every silence. She lets others express themselves, creating a space where vulnerability feels safe. That's what makes her irresistible. Listening is an act of generosity. It requires setting aside your own ego long enough to make someone else feel valued. She's mastered that. When she listens, her body language speaks too. She leans in slightly, maintains eye contact, and gives subtle nods that say, "I'm here. I'm with you." That quiet assurance gives others the courage to be honest. And because she listens so deeply, she often understands things others miss. She catches the small details, the emotion behind the words, the hesitation before a confession, the smile that hides pain. She's perceptive because she's present. Years of experience have taught her that talking doesn't always solve problems. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is just listen. She's seen relationships break not because people stop loving each other, but because they stop listening. She's learned that every human being at their core just wants to be heard. So, she listens, without judgment, without rushing to offer advice, without needing to fix everything. She knows that being heard is healing in itself. When she does speak, her words carry weight because they're measured, thoughtful, and often rooted in what she's heard. People pay attention to her words precisely because she doesn't use them carelessly. She doesn't dominate conversations, she enhances them. Every time she speaks, it feels like she's adding value, not noise. That's the paradox of a great listener. The less they speak, the more powerful their voice becomes. She listens even when it's uncomfortable. When someone criticizes her or challenges her beliefs, she doesn't react defensively. Instead, she pauses, considers, and seeks to understand. This kind of emotional discipline makes her admirable. It shows maturity. It shows control. Most people listen to argue or to prove their point, but she listens to grow. She knows that every perspective, even one she disagrees with, can teach her something. Her openness doesn't mean she accepts everything, but it means she respects others enough to hear them out. Her ability to listen extends beyond words. She listens to energy, to mood, to silence. She notices when someone is pretending to be fine, but isn't. She senses when something's wrong without needing it to be said out loud. This intuitive kind of listening makes her deeply empathetic. People often say she just gets it, even when they can't explain how. It's because she's learned to tune in, not just to voices, but to hearts. In leadership, this quality becomes her superpower. When she leads a team, a family, or a community, she doesn't assume she knows everything. She invites input. She encourages others to speak. She listens before she decides, which makes people feel involved, respected, and trusted. That's why those who follow her do so willingly. They know she values their perspective. Listening builds trust, and trust builds loyalty. She's also learned the wisdom of silence. Silence doesn't scare her, it strengthens her. She understands that silence creates space for reflection, for emotion, for truth to surface. When others rush to fill the quiet, she allows it to linger. Because in silence, people often reveal what matters most. And in those moments, she doesn't interrupt or advise. She simply listens. That's when the deepest human connections are formed. Listening more than speaking also helps her understand herself better. In the quiet moments after a conversation, she reflects on what she's heard. She asks herself what it means, what she learned, and how it changed her perspective. This reflection deepens her wisdom. It's one of the reasons why her advice, when she finally gives it, feels profound. It doesn't come from impulse. It comes from observation and reflection. She's not easily influenced by noise because she's learned to separate signal from distraction. The world around her is loud. Everyone wants to be noticed. Everyone wants to be right. But she filters through the chaos by listening carefully and thinking slowly. That's why her decisions are balanced and her emotions steady. Listening gives her clarity. It keeps her grounded in truth, not in impulse or popularity. There's something deeply calming about a person who truly listens. She creates a sense of belonging wherever she goes. People remember how she makes them feel seen, not dismissed. They walk away lighter, understood, valued. That's her quiet magic. It's not in what she says, it's in how she listens. She listens because she's learned that every voice matters. She listens because she's seen how listening heals relationships, solves conflicts, and builds bridges where walls used to stand. She listens because she understands that wisdom doesn't come from always talking. It comes from paying attention. Every story she hears, every perspective she absorbs shapes her understanding of life. Listening is how she grows, how she leads, and how she loves. She knows her worth and never seeks validation. That kind of self-assurance doesn't happen overnight. It's something that's built layer by layer, over years of learning, unlearning, and rediscovering who she really is. An older woman who knows her worth has likely walked through seasons of doubt, heartbreak, rejection, and change. She's seen what happens when you place your value in the hands of others, and she's felt the emptiness that comes from chasing approval. That's why she stopped doing it. She no longer allows the world to define her value, because she's already done that for herself. Her worth isn't tied to her appearance, her achievements, or anyone's opinion. It's rooted in something much deeper, in self-awareness, in dignity, in purpose. She knows she doesn't have to prove her importance to anyone. She's enough as she is, and that quiet confidence makes her magnetic. People sense it the moment they meet her. There's something unshakable about her presence, a kind of peace that says, I know who I am, and I don't need your permission to be that. When you know your worth, you stop settling for less than you deserve. She's learned that lesson the hard way. There were times in her life when she tolerated disrespect, when she stayed silent to keep the peace, when she prioritized others' comfort over her own self-respect. But life taught her that peace built on self-betrayal isn't peace at all, it's fear. Now, she chooses differently. She sets boundaries not to push people away, but to protect her peace. And that's a form of self-love. She's not arrogant or prideful, she's grounded. There's a difference between confidence and ego, and she understands it well. Ego demands recognition. Confidence doesn't need it. Ego shouts. Confidence simply stands tall. Her sense of worth comes from an internal compass, not external applause. It's the difference between chasing validation and living in alignment with your truth. She no longer looks around to see who's clapping for her. She claps for herself because she knows how hard she's worked to become who she is. People who don't know their worth often bend themselves into shapes to fit into other people's expectations. But she refuses to do that. She doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. She doesn't apologize for being too strong, too independent, or too ambitious. She's learned that the right people will never be intimidated by her light. They'll be inspired by it. So she keeps shining, not to prove a point, but because that's what light does. It shines. She's learned that validation is addictive, and like any addiction, it can destroy your sense of self. When you rely on others to tell you who you are, you lose control of your identity. She's broken that cycle. She doesn't need likes, praise, or approval to feel good about herself. Her confidence comes from within, from her values, her experiences, and the lessons she's gathered through life. She knows that external validation is fleeting. It's like chasing shadows. The only kind of validation that lasts is the kind that comes from self-respect. Knowing her worth doesn't mean she never doubts herself. Doubt still visits her, but it doesn't stay long. She's learned to talk to herself kindly, to remind herself of her strength when her confidence wavers. She doesn't wait for someone else to reassure her. She gives herself the reassurance she needs. That kind of self-talk comes from maturity, the understanding that you can be both confident and imperfect at the same time. She doesn't see her flaws as failures, she sees them as features of her growth. Because she knows her worth, she doesn't chase love, she attracts it. The kind of love she attracts isn't born from desperation, but from authenticity. She doesn't need someone to complete her because she's already whole. Relationships, for her, are not about filling a void, they're about sharing abundance. That's what makes her irresistible. Her independence doesn't isolate her, it elevates her. She can stand alone, and that makes her presence powerful. She's also learned how to say no without guilt. In her younger years, she might have said yes to everything, every request, every expectation, just to please others. But she's grown to understand that no is a complete sentence. She doesn't owe explanations for prioritizing herself. Saying no doesn't make her selfish, it makes her self-aware. She knows her limits, her energy, and her time are precious. Protecting them is not arrogance, it's wisdom. Her self-worth shapes every decision she makes. She no longer accepts half-hearted effort from people, whether in friendships, relationships, or work. She expects the same respect and effort she gives. And because she knows her worth, she's willing to walk away from anything that doesn't align with it. That courage to walk away, to let go of what no longer serves her, is one of the most powerful signs of self-respect. There's something calm about a woman who knows her worth. She doesn't need to announce it. It's in the way she carries herself, the way she speaks, the way she chooses what deserves her attention. She's not easily impressed, and she's not easily shaken. Compliments are appreciated but not required. Criticism is considered but not internalized. Her sense of self isn't up for negotiation. That's what makes her presence so strong. She's anchored. She measures her life by different standards now. Not by how much she has, but by how deeply she's lived. Not by how many people approve of her, but by how many moments she feels proud of herself. She knows that confidence built on external success is fragile, but confidence built on self-respect is unbreakable. She's proud of her scars because they tell her story, not one of perfection, but of resilience. Every decision she makes now starts with a simple question: does this honor who I am? If the answer is no, she walks away. She's not afraid of being alone because she's discovered that solitude is not loneliness, it's strength. She's comfortable in her own company. She enjoys her quiet mornings, her thoughts, her peace. She doesn't crave attention, she values connection. And she doesn't need validation because she already gives herself permission to be enough. That's what it means to know your worth. To no longer need to be chosen, praised, or accepted to feel valuable. Her worth is not a reaction to how the world treats her. It's a reflection of how she treats herself. It's unshakable, it's quiet, and it's powerful in a way that words can't fully capture. She radiates confidence through kindness. It's not the loud, performative kind of confidence that demands attention. It's quiet, grounded, and deeply genuine. It doesn't come from needing to be the center of the room. It comes from being comfortable in her own skin. When she walks into a room, people notice not because she tries to dominate the space, but because her energy fills it effortlessly. Her kindness is what amplifies her confidence. It's not a mask she wears to be liked, but an extension of who she is. It's her natural way of moving through the world. She understands that confidence without kindness is just arrogance dressed up as power. Real confidence doesn't need to belittle others. It doesn't need to compete or compare. It stands firm but remains soft. It holds strength but stays approachable. She's learned over the years that being kind doesn't make you weak. It makes you secure. Only those who doubt themselves feel the need to tear others down. Those who know their worth lift others up. She lives by that truth. Her kindness isn't not a V. It's not the kind that comes from pleasing people or avoiding conflict. It's a conscious choice. She's seen enough of the world to know that everyone carries invisible struggles. And instead of judging, she chooses compassion. She doesn't see kindness as a transaction, something you give only when it's deserved. She sees it as a reflection of character. Her kindness isn't dependent on how others treat her. It's rooted in who she's decided to be. This balance of confidence and kindness gives her a rare magnetism. People are drawn to her because she makes them feel seen, valued, and respected. She doesn't use her confidence to intimidate, but to reassure. When she speaks, there's no need to raise her voice to be heard. Her calm authority commands attention. When she smiles, it's genuine, not a forced gesture, but a reflection of inner peace. She's mastered the art of being strong without being harsh, firm without being cold. Her confidence comes from experience, from surviving things that could have broken her, but didn't. Every challenge she's faced has strengthened her. Every setback has shaped her. She no longer sees failure as shameful, she sees it as a teacher. That's why her confidence is so solid. It's not fragile, not dependent on perfection. It's built on resilience. And because she's walked through storms, she doesn't need to prove herself anymore. She's done trying to impress the world. She's more interested in impacting it. Kindness for her is not just about being nice, it's about being intentional. It's in the way she listens without interrupting, the way she remembers small details about people, the way she offers encouragement when it's least expected. Her kindness shows up in her patience, in how she treats those who can't do anything for her, and in how she chooses grace over anger. It's quiet, consistent, and deeply human. It's what makes people trust her and want to be around her. She knows that confidence doesn't mean being flawless. It means accepting your flaws without letting them define you. She's learned that authenticity is more attractive than perfection. When she talks about her struggles, she doesn't hide behind pride. She's open, real, and honest about what she's learned. That vulnerability doesn't make her weak. It makes her relatable. People see her as strong, but also approachable. That combination of strength and warmth makes her unforgettable. When she interacts with others, she doesn't try to outshine them. She shines beside them. She celebrates others' wins with genuine happiness. Her confidence isn't threatened by someone else's success because she knows that someone else's light doesn't dim her own. She understands that there's enough room for everyone to grow, to succeed, to be noticed. That's why her kindness feels safe. It's not manipulative or competitive. It's pure. She treats everyone with the same level of respect, from the person serving her coffee to the person signing her paycheck. Her confidence allows her to see equality where others might see hierarchy. She doesn't use her experience or wisdom to make others feel small. She uses it to lift others higher. That humility, paired with her kindness, gives her presence a kind of quiet authority that doesn't need titles or validation. Even when she's hurt, she chooses kindness. That doesn't mean she tolerates mistreatment. It means she refuses to let bitterness shape her. Her confidence gives her the strength to respond with grace instead of revenge. She can walk away with her dignity intact because she knows her energy is too valuable to waste on negativity. Her kindness isn't a weakness, it's her power. It's her silent way of saying, I choose peace over chaos. She doesn't gossip or engage in petty conversations. She doesn't need to bring others down to feel superior. Her self-assurance frees her from the need for drama. When others try to provoke her, she stays calm. Her peace can't be easily disturbed because she's learned that not every battle deserves her attention. Her confidence protects her, and her kindness defines her. Together, they create a balance that radiates strength and grace. People often describe her as someone who makes others feel calm just by being around her. That's not an accident. It's the result of years spent understanding herself. She's worked through insecurities, healed old wounds, and learned to show up as the best version of herself. Her energy is grounded. She doesn't need validation to feel powerful, and she doesn't need to prove her kindness to be good. Both flow naturally from within. When she gives a compliment, it's sincere. When she encourages someone, it's because she means it. Her words carry sincerity because they come from a place of abundance, not emptiness. She's not kind because she needs approval. She's kind because she believes in goodness. Her confidence gives her the freedom to be kind without fear of being taken advantage of. She knows that kindness doesn't make you vulnerable, it makes you human. She's also aware that not everyone will understand her kindness. Some will mistake it for weakness. But she's no longer interested in proving them wrong. She knows that what others think says more about them than about her. Her confidence allows her to stay true to her principles, no matter the situation. That consistency is what makes her stand out. She doesn't change her behavior based on who's watching. She's the same with everyone, steady, kind, and real. Her kindness leaves a lasting impression. People remember how she made them feel. They might forget her words, but they'll remember her warmth, her patience, and her presence. That's how her confidence radiates, not through self-promotion, but through impact. It's in the quiet ways she inspires others to be gentler, more authentic, and more self-assured. Her kindness becomes her legacy, and her confidence is what gives it power. She values depth over drama. That's one of the things that set her apart in a world that often celebrates noise over meaning. She's lived long enough to see how shallow conversations and temporary excitement fade away, leaving emptiness behind. She no longer chases attention or chaos just to feel alive. Instead, she seeks connection, substance, and truth. She's drawn to things that nourish her soul, not just entertain her mind. She doesn't have time for gossip, competition, or pretension. Her energy is too valuable to waste on things that don't build her, move her, or inspire her. Depth, for her, means being intentional with her time, her words, and her relationships. She doesn't surround herself with people who only want to talk about others. She surrounds herself with people who talk about ideas, growth, and purpose. She understands that drama thrives where insecurity lives, and she has outgrown that stage of her life. She doesn't get pulled into meaningless conflicts or emotional games. If something doesn't bring peace or clarity, she quietly walks away. Her calmness is her statement. Her peace is her protest against the chaos around her. She values meaningful conversations over small talk. She wants to talk about dreams, fears, lessons, and life. Not just the weather or who did what. She wants to understand people beyond their surface. She asks real questions, and when she listens to the answers, she pays attention. She wants to know what drives a person, what breaks them, what makes them come alive. That's how she connects, not by pretending to care, but by truly being present. Her curiosity is not about collecting information, it's about building understanding. Drama used to interest her when she was younger, not because she liked it, but because she didn't know better. It's easy to get caught in emotional turbulence when you're unsure of yourself. But now, she knows that peace is far more attractive than chaos. She's seen how drama drains energy, breaks trust, and distracts from what really matters. So she chooses depth. Depth in her relationships, in her passions, in her thoughts. She's learned that real fulfillment doesn't come from intensity. It comes from authenticity. When people try to draw her into gossip or conflict, she doesn't engage. She's polite but distant. She knows that what people say about others says more about them than it does about the person they're talking about. She refuses to be a part of that cycle because she understands how destructive it can be. Instead, she uses her time to create, to learn, to grow. That's where her focus is, on things that elevate her, not drain her. She values depth in love too. She's not impressed by grand gestures or sweet words that carry no substance. She looks for consistency, honesty, and emotional intelligence. She doesn't need constant attention, she values genuine understanding. She'd rather have one honest conversation than 100 meaningless compliments. Her love language is depth, presence, vulnerability, and emotional connection. She's not afraid of silence, because silence with the right person still feels like connection. Depth has also changed how she sees herself. She no longer defines her worth by how others perceive her. She looks inward for validation. She spends time reflecting, journaling, and understanding her emotions. She's not afraid to face her shadows or confront her flaws. She knows that growth only happens when you're willing to look beneath the surface. This self-awareness gives her a calm confidence that others can feel. She's not trying to be perfect, she's trying to be real. And that authenticity is magnetic. When challenges come her way, she doesn't react impulsively. She thinks, reflects, and acts with intention. Drama thrives on reaction, but depth thrives on reflection. She doesn't let other people's chaos become her own. She's learned that not everything deserves a response. Some things are better left unspoken, some battles are better left unfought. Her strength is in knowing the difference. Her life is slower now, but richer. She appreciates quiet mornings, meaningful talks, good books, long walks, and genuine laughter. She finds beauty in simplicity because she's discovered that happiness doesn't come from having more. It comes from feeling more. The moments that matter most to her are the ones that touch her heart, not the ones that impress others. She values experiences over appearances. She values truth over approval. People often come to her for advice because they sense her depth. They know she won't give shallow answers. She listens carefully, speaks honestly, and always brings perspective. She doesn't judge, she understands. And that's rare. Her wisdom doesn't come from books alone, it comes from life, from heartbreak, healing, and self-discovery. She doesn't need to exaggerate her stories to sound interesting. Her authenticity makes her interesting enough. She's careful with her emotions. She doesn't share her heart with everyone because she knows that not everyone values depth. She's selective, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. She's learned that energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. She gives fully to those who meet her with sincerity, but she withdraws from those who thrive on drama or deceit. Her boundaries protect her peace. Her peace protects her joy. She's also learned that depth requires vulnerability. It means being open to discomfort, to growth, to truth. It's not always easy. Sometimes, depth feels lonely because few people are willing to go there. But she'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by people who thrive on pretense. She's learned to be comfortable in solitude because she knows that solitude isn't emptiness. It's space for clarity. It's where she reconnects with herself and her values. She values depth in every aspect of her life. In her work, in her conversations, in her purpose. She doesn't chase trends, she builds meaning. She doesn't follow the crowd. She follows her convictions. She's more interested in being aligned than being admired. She's not easily distracted by what's popular or temporary because she's focused on what's lasting. She knows that drama fades quickly, but depth leaves a mark. She carries herself with calm assurance, not because her life is perfect, but because she's learned to focus on what truly matters. Her presence is soothing because she's not trying to impress anyone. She's content in her authenticity. When people talk to her, they feel grounded, seen, and understood. She doesn't just talk about life, she embodies it. And that's why people find themselves drawn to her. In her depth, they find safety. In her peace, they find inspiration. In her simplicity, they find meaning. She turns experience into wisdom. That's the quiet power that defines her. Over the years, she's seen both the beauty and the brutality of life, and she's learned to embrace both. She no longer runs from pain or hides from failure because she understands that every experience, whether joyful or heartbreaking, carries a lesson. She doesn't look back with regret, she looks back with gratitude, knowing that even the hardest moments shaped her into who she is today. Her wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about understanding what truly matters. She's lived enough to know that not every battle is worth fighting, not every opinion needs defending, and not every opportunity deserves chasing. She's learned to choose her energy wisely. Experience has taught her that peace is more valuable than being right, that letting go often takes more strength than holding on, and that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. She stopped chasing validation because she's already earned something far more powerful: self-respect. Her life is no longer about proving herself to others, but about staying true to herself. Her wisdom shows up in the way she handles challenges. She doesn't panic when things go wrong, because she's been through worse and survived. She doesn't fear change because she's lived long enough to see that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. When people disappoint her, she doesn't close her heart. She simply learns who deserves a place in it. She's not bitter about the past. She's grateful for the clarity it gave her. Her strength is quiet but unshakable, built from years of trial, error, loss, and rediscovery. She understands that wisdom doesn't come from age alone. It comes from reflection. Experience only becomes wisdom when you take the time to learn from it. She has spent years asking herself difficult questions. What did this teach me? How did it grow me? What can I do differently next time? Through this process, she's learned to see patterns in her life, to recognize red flags sooner, and to trust her intuition. Her intuition has become her compass, sharp, grounded, and reliable, because it's been tested by time. She doesn't hold grudges because she knows that resentment poisons peace. When people wrong her, she forgives, not because they deserve it, but because she deserves freedom. She's learned that carrying anger only makes the load heavier, so she releases it. Experience taught her that happiness isn't about getting what you want, but about appreciating what you have and accepting what you cannot change. That kind of acceptance didn't come easily. It came through heartbreak, disappointment, and healing. But now it's part of her essence, calm, grounded, wise. Her wisdom also shows in the way she treats others. She doesn't judge quickly because she understands that everyone is fighting unseen battles. She listens more, interrupts less, and offers understanding before advice. Her empathy runs deep because she remembers what it feels like to be misunderstood. She's seen enough of life to know that people grow at their own pace, and that compassion does more to change a person than criticism ever will. She meets people where they are, not where she wants them to be. That's what makes her presence so comforting. She doesn't demand perfection, she inspires growth. In her relationships, she's not interested in control or drama. She values mutual respect and emotional maturity. She's learned that love is not about possession, it's about connection. Real love doesn't try to fix someone, it supports them. She's seen relationships fall apart when ego takes the wheel, and she's seen them flourish when vulnerability leads the way. So now she chooses connection over control, honesty over pretense, and understanding over pride. Her heart is open but discerning. She gives deeply but wisely. She's also learned that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. She's failed, stumbled, and lost more than once, but each time she rose stronger, smarter, and softer. She no longer fears mistakes because she knows they're the price of growth. Every scar she carries is a reminder of resilience. She doesn't hide them, she honors them. Her past doesn't define her, it refines her. She's not ashamed of her story because every chapter, even the painful ones, built her wisdom. Experience has made her patient. She doesn't rush outcomes because she's learned that timing matters. What's meant for her will come, Not when she wants it, but when she's ready for it. That faith gives her peace. She trusts the process even when it's slow. She doesn't force things anymore because she knows that forcing creates friction, while faith creates flow. She's no longer obsessed with being in control, she's focused on being aligned. That shift, from control to trust, is one of the greatest marks of her wisdom. Her wisdom also comes from observation. She's watched how people rise and fall, how pride destroys and humility restores, how giving heals and greed isolates. She's learned that success without purpose is empty, and wealth without gratitude is meaningless. So she defines success differently now, by peace, integrity, and the positive impact she leaves behind. She's not chasing applause, she's focused on legacy. She wants to be remembered not for what she achieved, but for how she made others feel. She uses her experiences as lessons to guide others. When someone younger comes to her for advice, she doesn't preach. She shares stories. Her guidance is gentle but powerful because it comes from truth, not theory. She doesn't try to impress with big words or complicated ideas. She connects through authenticity. Her wisdom is accessible, simple, clear, and rooted in life. She's living proof that every experience, no matter how painful, can be transformed into purpose if you're willing to learn from it. She's no longer afraid of uncertainty. She's made peace with the fact that not everything in life can be planned or explained. She understands that sometimes, the most meaningful moments are the ones that come unannounced. So she stays open to people, to possibilities, to change. That openness is not naivety, it's courage. It takes courage to trust again after being hurt, to love again after losing, to try again after failing. But she does because she knows that every new experience carries another chance to grow. Experience has softened her, not hardened her. It hasn't made her cynical, it's made her wise. She's seen that kindness is not weakness, forgiveness is not surrender, and vulnerability is not a flaw. These are strengths, quiet, powerful strengths that only time can teach. Her wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows up in her patience, in her presence, in the way she carries herself. She doesn't need to prove she's wise. People feel it when they're around her. It's in her calmness, her confidence, her clarity. She turns experience into wisdom because she's lived her life not just to survive, but to understand. She inspires others simply by being herself. There's something magnetic about a woman who no longer tries to fit in, who no longer hides her flaws or apologizes for her truth. She walks into a room and carries an energy that doesn't demand attention but earns it effortlessly. She's not trying to impress anyone, and that's exactly what makes her impressive. Her authenticity is her power. She's lived long enough to realize that pretending to be perfect is exhausting and pointless. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with honesty. And she embodies that honesty in everything she does. She doesn't put on a mask to please the world. She's not afraid to be seen as she really is. Unfiltered, raw, real. She speaks with conviction because her words come from experience, not theory. She laughs without holding back, loves without calculation, and expresses herself without fear of judgment. Her authenticity gives others permission to do the same. In her presence, people feel safe to be themselves because she doesn't demand perfection. She encourages truth. That's what makes her irresistible, not in a superficial sense, but in a deeply human way. She doesn't chase trends or try to be what society says she should be. She dresses, speaks, and lives in a way that reflects her essence. She knows what suits her, what nourishes her, what makes her feel alive, and she stays true to that. She doesn't measure her worth by likes, compliments, or external validation. Her confidence comes from alignment, from living in harmony with her values. She's learned that the greatest form of beauty is being at peace with who you are. She's aware of her strengths, but she's also comfortable with her weaknesses. She doesn't try to hide them or overcompensate. She knows that vulnerability is not a flaw, it's a bridge that connects people. She's not afraid to say, I don't know, or I was wrong. That honesty makes her relatable. She doesn't pretend to have everything figured out because she knows that life is a continuous process of learning. When people see her courage to be real, they feel inspired to stop pretending too. She's been through enough to know that trying to impress others only leads to emptiness. When she was younger, she might have sought approval from friends, partners, society, But over time, she realized that real fulfillment comes from self-acceptance. The moment she stopped seeking validation was the moment she found peace. Now, she moves through life with quiet confidence. She doesn't need to prove her value, she embodies it. She doesn't need to talk about her worth, it's felt through her presence. She inspires not because she's loud or dominant, but because she's centered. Her energy is calm yet powerful. People feel drawn to her without knowing why. It's the kind of attraction that goes beyond appearance. It's rooted in authenticity. She's not trying to be someone people look at. She's someone people feel. And that's a rare quality in a world obsessed with appearances. Her life is her message. The way she treats others, the way she handles setbacks, the way she speaks with kindness even when she's hurt. All of it communicates something profound. She doesn't need to preach or give speeches to inspire. Her example is enough. When people see how she handles life's challenges with grace and integrity, they want to do the same. She shows that strength doesn't have to be loud, and wisdom doesn't have to be complicated. It's in the small, consistent choices she makes every day. To be honest, kind, grounded, and free. She's not afraid to stand alone. If her truth makes others uncomfortable, she doesn't change it to fit in. She's learned that authenticity sometimes means walking a lonely path, but she'd rather be alone with her truth than surrounded by people who love her mask. That courage, to be real even when it's not easy, makes her unforgettable. People remember her because she's genuine in a world that often rewards imitation. She doesn't compete with others because she's too busy growing herself. She celebrates others' success instead of feeling threatened by it. Her sense of self is strong enough to appreciate someone else's light without feeling like it dims her own. She understands that everyone has a different journey, and comparison only steals joy. This abundance mindset makes her magnetic. She lifts others up instead of trying to outshine them, and in doing so, her light shines even brighter. She's comfortable with silence. She doesn't feel the need to fill every moment with noise or every conversation with words. When she speaks, it's with intention. When she listens, it's with presence. Her calmness is contagious. People leave her presence feeling more grounded, more seen, more whole. She reminds them that there's power in stillness, that strength can be quiet, and that being yourself is enough. She lives by example. She doesn't tell others how to live. She shows them through her choices. The way she takes care of her body, the way she treats people, the way she handles failure, it all reflects her inner values. She practices what she believes, and that consistency builds trust. Her actions match her words, and that integrity is rare. People admire her not because she's flawless, but because she's real and dependable. She's also not afraid to evolve. Being herself doesn't mean being static. She embraces change because she understands that authenticity grows with experience. She's open to learning, adapting, and redefining herself as life unfolds. She's not trapped by who she used to be, she's in love with who she's becoming. This openness to growth keeps her energy alive and inspiring. She doesn't cling to the past or fear the future, she stays present, and that presence radiates confidence and wisdom. Her authenticity also extends to how she expresses love. She doesn't manipulate, play games, or hide behind pride. She loves sincerely, deeply, and without conditions. She's not afraid to show affection or to speak her heart. Her love feels safe because it's real, no pretense, no performance. And people remember that. In a world where so many are afraid to feel deeply, her openness becomes a rare and powerful gift. She inspires people not by being perfect, but by being human. She allows others to see her flaws, her laughter, her tears, her courage. She's not a distant ideal, she's a living example of what it means to be genuine. Her story, her scars, her growth, they all remind others that it's okay to be imperfect. That it's okay to take time to find yourself, and that authenticity will always outshine perfection. She doesn't try to inspire others. It just happens naturally. Her presence is her message. Her peace is her strength. Her honesty is her beauty. She shows people that when you stop trying to be who the world expects you to be, you finally become who you were meant to be. And that truth, that unshakable authenticity, is what makes her truly irresistible.